from on the rising tension in Sudan. I have joining me Olasubomi Iginla-Aina. She's an ambassador, Nigerians in diaspora. She joins me from virtually from the United Kingdom. Good to have you join us.
Thank you very much.
I know you have experience in terms of humanitarian coordination and all. And when you look at what's going on now in Sudan, from your experience, what's your thoughts on the scale of humanitarian crisis that could arise from this?
Well, that's a very ambiguous question because there are so many nations involved. If looking at the situation that we are confronted with, there are so many nations involved, and there are so many approaches that different nations have taken to be able to evacuate their citizens and their citizens from Sudan. So as I speak, unfortunately, it's been quite difficult to move in humanitarian aid easily because of the fact that some of the airports have been bombed and planes are not flying. So that makes it extremely difficult to be able to move in humanitarian help to these people who are in dire need of help. So honestly, I must commend the Nigerian government at this stage because they have done really well considering the fact that the response is rapid compared to other times. So when Nigerian government have done something well, let's have the ability to say that, well done, they have done well this time around.
Ambassador Olasubomi, I was really asking about Sudan. We understand, and when you look at Ukraine and what has happened in Ukraine and how many people has continued to flee that country to neighboring countries, and you also now look at Sudan, citizens are fleeing. I was asking you really about what you think could happen, the pressure this could mean for other countries who are now taking in refugees and people who are fleeing Sudan.
Oh, yeah, I get you now. Thank you very much. Actually, it's like you know, there are so many things going on around this time in the world. Everything is happening at the same time. There are conflicts here and there, and now bringing in Sudan suddenly is not something that I believe it's one. It's shocking to everyone. It's shocking to most governments. They are not prepared for this, and as a result of lack of being prepared, it would obviously cause a lot of crises in other neighboring countries. Chad already is feeling the heat. Ethiopia is feeling the heat. Djibouti, all other countries surrounding Egypt, every other place, they're already feeling the heat because there is an influx of migrants from Sudan coming into different countries. Some of them don't even know where they're going to sleep. Some of them don't have food to eat. Even right in Sudan, there is problem of supply for humanitarian aid. How much more the surrounding areas? So everybody needs help now. The way things are, the only way I believe that humanitarian aid can be supplied easily to this area would be to just use neighboring countries. Flying in food, flying in drugs through neighboring countries, and then using neighboring countries as a medium for a location for humanitarian support. And this exact scenario happened when the Ukraine war commenced. A lot of humanitarian organizations could not move into Ukraine, and as a result of that, Poland, Slovakia, Hungary, and other neighboring countries were used to settle people and administer help when needed. So I believe this is a real big one for the UN, for world leaders to contend with. We all have to have our hands on deck, private sector, multinational organizations, NGOs, CSOs, cut across the world. Everybody now needs to come together to see how we can move in and help one another.
Absolutely, because people were already fleeing the country even before this war. You can imagine how bad things are now. But let's talk about evacuation. We see how some countries have been able to evacuate their diplomats who are working in that country, who are working in Sudan, and are now struggling to evacuate their nationals. I know that you were instrumental in facilitating the evacuation of orphans from Ukraine. Now, from your experience, how easy is it to coordinate a safe passage for people to leave or evacuate in this kind of crisis?
It's never easy because most of the time you cannot predict what would happen, what you will meet on ground. Even when you plan, this is what you would do, this is how you would do it, you just get to the site and realize that the game has changed. Everything you have planned will not work there. So, for example, when we were going to evacuate Ukrainian orphans, Light Up Foundation, I led the team that went into Ukraine to evacuate these orphans. By the time we were going, we had limited information, but leadership is when we take action and not when we are seen confused. So the next thing we had to do was to move in to take action. We moved in with very few volunteers because nobody wants to die, of course. But some of us, to the glory of God, we have the grace to be able to do this kind of work. So when we moved in, it was quite challenging. We were seeking information. Initially, we had near to no information. But before we knew what was happening, we became a source of information even to some of the government sectors within Ukraine. They were calling us, this is where the orphans are. At some point, they needed help from us. And they would tell us that, please, we need your help. Some orphans have relocated here. How can you help? So we began to help. So these are some of the things that happen. You really cannot tell what would happen, but you just make sure that you are designing and you have enough hands that are working with you, and you are communicating every step that you're taking, because events usually change. What's happening now might just not be what is going to happen in the next 1 minute. In the next 1 minute, everybody may have to start running for their life. So it is really, really a serious. It's a serious matter. It's not an easy task at all for any organization or government to take on.
Absolutely. You paint a very clear picture of what countries are struggling with right now as they try to evacuate their citizens from Ukraine. Thank you so much for talking to us, Ambassador Olasubomi Iginla-Aina. She's also the ambassador of Nigerians in diaspora, and she joined us from the United Kingdom. Thank you.
You're welcome.